Hello everybody and welcome back to the page. I'm your host Ashriel Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective here in Israel. Today I want to just share a few thoughts with you on a video that was sent to me wherein you have a Palestinian American activist who allegedly brought a group of people to the Palestinian territories to visit and to volunteer, and amongst them you had a group of people of African ancestry who they refer to as African Americans who had come along with her as well. And she's ranting in this video and condemning these people of African ancestry because of the response that they had to experiences that they had actually had while on this trip with her. And first of all, let's listen to it and then I'll share with you my thoughts.
I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the Black people in our group. And that's really disappointing for me to admit because I was so excited to go on this trip with Black Americans because I was always under the impression that Black people will be our greatest allies because they understand more than anybody what it's like to live under occupation, what it's like to be oppressed and racially profiled. But during the trip, it felt like some people were too busy playing oppression Olympics to fully grasp the experiences of Palestinians living in Palestine. Some people came on the trip with a very limited understanding of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, which is problematic in and of itself. But the most problematic thing was the fact that some people were applying a Western lens of racial dynamics to a place where it does not apply. I am not going to sit here and deny that anti-Blackness exists in every single part of the world. But the issue of race is much different in Palestine than in most other places in the world. In Palestine, Palestinians of all colors are undoubtedly the most oppressed people. In Palestine, a non-Palestinian Black person is more privileged than a Palestinian of any color. And an American, Black or white, is one of the most privileged people in Palestine, right beneath Israelis. Some people in the group were too busy victimizing themselves and taking out their anger on all the wrong people to sit with the reality that in modern day, there are some people that are more oppressed than them. One person in particular was incredibly problematic, especially considering she was one of the group leads who was hosting private conversations exclusively for the 7 Black people in the group, which under almost any other circumstances I would encourage. I encourage Black people to create safe spaces for themselves to discuss racial issues among themselves. But the issue is that the only comments I heard come out of this person's mouth about Palestine and Palestinians were negative, were about how racist we are, were about how slavery persisted until the 20th century in Palestine, which is such an uneducated take, by the way. It was not exclusive to Black people, and it was not done mostly by Palestinians. So I believe these conversations being hosted by a person who came to Palestine with biases against Palestinians were so dangerous to Palestinians and ultimately to Black Palestinian solidarity. The most ironic part about all of this is the fact that we sat and had dinner with Afro-Palestinians in Palestine. We sat and broke bread with the family who runs the Afro-Pali Center in Jerusalem. And they are Black. They are visibly Black. And yet they are highly respected in the Palestinian community for the work that they do for Palestinians. I even talked to the chef at our hotel in the last couple of days who was a political prisoner. He had just gotten out of prison 2 months before we arrived in Palestine. And he told us that he sat side by side with an Afro-Palestinian, son of the couple who runs the Afro-Pali Center. He sat with him in prison and he was shocked when I asked him about racism in Palestine because he was like, those are my brothers. I don't care what color they are. During this trip, I sat with Palestinians and I told them, talk to me bluntly. I'm a Palestinian. I'm not going to judge our community. Talk to me about racism in Palestine. And every single one of them was like, What is there to say? Like, racism exists in every community, yes. But in Palestine, it's actually few and far between. Because the issue of race is so much more complicated in a place like Palestine. And I have been involved in Black activism for many years. And I know that when I am in Black spaces, it is not my place to call out issues within the Black community, especially when those people are being slaughtered. When I am in Black spaces, I am there to observe, to learn, to be an ally, not to call out Black people. By the way, these same people who sat there and talked all this shit about how racist Palestinians are did not hesitate to pose in front of a ginormous George Floyd mural painted by a Palestinian artist. They posed with that artist in front of the mural. And I bet they wouldn't dare look that artist in the face and say that he's racist. By the way, go support that artist. He's Banksy.2 on Instagram. He's an incredible person, incredible artist who I'm still in communication with. He is struggling right now. His daughter is in the hospital, so please reach out and try to help in any way that you can. But I refused to pose in that picture with the rest of the group because literally an hour before that, they were making fun of Palestinians. We passed a mural that was supposed to be, I believe, of Nelson Mandela, but it wasn't the greatest art. And so it kind of looked like George Floyd, and they couldn't tell who it was. And they literally said, I'm so sick of these people. And yet they won't hesitate to pose in front of a George Floyd mural for a social media photo op. Even when we were about to walk into a masjid, there were beggars outside the masjid who asked some people for money. And she made a comment about how, oh, notice how they're not asking the Black people for money because they think all Black people are poor. And I said, you don't know that. Those same people didn't ask me, a Palestinian American, for money. They're not assuming I'm poor. In fact, when they know you're American, you're immediately up here to them. They immediately assume you have money and that you're privileged in ways that they'll never experience. The reason that they didn't ask some people for money had nothing to do with the fact that those people are Black. They simply just approached a few people out of the entire group asking for money. I could ramble about this for hours because it was one of the most frustrating things of my life to watch people come from America to a place like Palestine and act like they're more oppressed than people literally living under occupation. And it's so ironic because the entire time I'm trying to find parallels between the lives of Palestinians, between the racial profiling that I experienced as a Palestinian and the experiences of Black people in America. I thought that this would be an opportunity for us to come together and understand each other better, not to create more division. But this is why some people are so dangerous to the movement, not only to the pro-Palestinian movement, but also to Black activism. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the Black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the Black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the Black community as a whole. One of the most ironic parts about all of this is that before making this video, I was sitting in a cafe in Amman, journaling my thoughts about this topic, and I got interrupted by a waiter at the restaurant who asked me where I'm from, and we started chatting, and it turns out he is Jamaican and Palestinian. But ultimately, I think if you have internal biases against Palestinians, you should not be going to Palestine. And if you don't want to acknowledge the experiences of Palestinians in their entirety, then to be honest, we don't need you as an ally. Seeing what Palestinians are going through only makes you think, yeah, no, we have it worse. When you're an American, you are not a true ally. And I will be talking more about the issue of people taking trips to Palestine with a limited understanding of Palestinians and Palestinian history, because there were so many other issues with some of the people who went on this trip for all the wrong reasons.
So now that we've watched the entire video, I'll just tell you right off the bat that it sounds to me that this is absolutely fabricated. This story is absolutely untrue. She made this up and she had a different purpose for actually sharing this information in that way, because I went and I looked for the other side of the story, because this video went viral. And so because it went viral, most likely the people who were there would have given their side of the story of what actually happened, as opposed to allowing her to tarnish their name and to give this impression about people of African ancestry that's very far away from reality. So they would have given their side of the story. Nothing to be found. It's no videos, no written information, nada. And so not only that, the video is no longer even on her page when you go to the page. So I'm wondering, why did she take it down from her page then? But we're not going to even dwell on that, right? We're going to go right into the heart of it. First of all, what it sounds to me is that they brought these people to Israel, or to the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian territories, which, I mean, I'm confused, because she says Palestine, and then she says that in Palestine, black and white Palestinians are less privileged than even black people who are not Palestinians and who are not. Where? In Israel, in the Palestinian territories? Where are you talking about? It sounds like she's jumping between the two. So I couldn't really follow. But nonetheless, let's deal with the reality here. She starts the video by saying that these people came without any previous knowledge about Palestinians or the Palestinian struggle. But she ends the video by saying that these people came with an internal bias, and people who have an internal bias against Palestinians should not come to Israel and should not be allies of the Palestinian people, or whatever that is, which sounds to me like a total manipulation. Because if I could just tell you the short version of the story based on what it is that I'm listening to, these people came from 7,000 miles away. They've been told a very specific story. They had it in their hearts to actually support the struggle. They desired to actually come and to connect with the people on the grounds. They came, but they experienced something totally different from what they were told. And not only did they experience something totally different from what they were told, they actually also experienced racism and discrimination themselves from the very people that they expected to come and to be allies with, to work with on the grounds. And so they had a lot to say about that. They were very vocal about those experiences. And so they were vocal between themselves as a group about what they were experiencing as they were experiencing it throughout their trip here. And so that's why there was no reason for them to conduct this conversation with her or with other people who are Palestinian, but within their small group, because they were the ones who were experiencing this. Now, you can't say that these people have preconceived notions or biases when they came all the way over here. I don't know what the circumstances even are. If they had work and they left their work and came here, or if they had to pay their own trip here, or somebody else paid their trip, but they still left everything they were doing over in America and to come here and to visit and to experience and to see, but then the experiences were totally different from, what they were told beforehand. So you can't get mad at these people. They came here with the desire to actually assist and to be exposed to what it is that they had been told for a very long period of time. But the experience was very different. I mean, the experience of the oppression and all those other things that they may have been told about when they came, they may not have experienced that. They may not have seen that. And so you expected them then to see things that they were not seeing, that they were not experiencing. And so you gave them the impression that what you're going to see here is comparable to what people of African ancestry experience all over the world, and also our ancestors experienced in America. But when they came, they didn't see that, so they were like, what oppression? What? This has nothing. This is not even close to what our ancestors experienced. This is not even close to what our people of African ancestry are experiencing all over the world. And so you get mad at that, saying that they're playing oppression Olympics. No, they were expecting to see something that they didn't actually see. And so what they actually saw didn't compare to the experiences of people of African ancestry in other places in the world. But not only that, this patronizing position of, one, I encourage black people to conduct conversations and find safe spaces within themselves. First of all, who even asked you? She was saying that she's operating in black spaces, as she say, and it's not her place to call out black people from. Well, these people were basically given their 2 cents about what they were experiencing. They were just being vocal about what they were experiencing. So they weren't calling anybody out. They were just sharing the reality of what they were experiencing while they were here on this trip. And it's not that they had come with some people who were anti-Palestinian or otherwise. They came with Palestinian people to Palestinian Authority territories to see Palestinian life, to see the experiences. They ended up being the ones who had the bad experience. So you're going to be mad, you're going to be angry with them that people were acting in a racial way, in a racist way, or in a discriminatory way towards them. And so as a result of that, they didn't really appreciate that. They didn't like that. They're the problem now. The other problem, I don't get this. And trying to paint this rosy picture about the reality within the Palestinian community. Look, Afro-Palestinians are very much discriminated against, experience racism, experience oppression at the hands of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, at the hands of Hamas in Gaza. They're looked upon as second-class citizens. They're looked upon as foreigners. They're looked upon as the children of slaves. And how do I know these things? Because I have friends who are like family in Jericho, who I visit quite often, who I speak to quite often, who share with me the experiences on the ground. By the way, right now, throughout this war, they haven't received none of the Palestinian communities. We're talking about more than about 100,000 people just in Jericho alone didn't receive any assistance, any support, nothing from the Palestinian Authority. Nada, zero. While everybody else around are absolutely receiving funds and receiving these UN cards, she said, so they can be able to get assistance, so they could be able to get support, or I don't know exactly how the system works, but they don't even have those UN cards. So they don't qualify to receive any of the aid that is being provided. Right? This is how they're being treated. I mean, in Gaza, you have the El Abid neighborhood where about 1% of the population of Gaza are residing there. And these people are people of African ancestry, Afro-Palestinians, who a significant amount of them had come to Israel during the Ottoman period. They were brought as domestic workers and slaves, quite honestly, and those people were still looked upon as such in Gaza and also in the West Bank. So I'm trying to really understand, what is it that you're talking about, that these things don't exist in this community? They absolutely do exist, and it's very clear that they exist. Palestinian people are also part of the Arab community. These things happen all throughout. You have the kafala system that is all within the Gulf states, that is effectively racism. Slavery, when you're bringing these people in, you're taking their passports away from them. They don't have any human rights. They don't have any civil rights, and you barely paying them. You have auction blocks in Mauritania and in Libya. You have, these things absolutely do exist. This actually shows you how much this community expects that people of African ancestry, wherever they are in the world, they should put the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause in top priority, and they should neglect everything that is in their best interest to support the interests of this community. And if they don't do so, then they're labeled all type of absolutely terrible names: monkeys and slaves and colonizers and culprits. And, all of these things, because, for example, like what happened in America when people of African ancestry were looking to vote for Kamala Harris, because they believed that she had their best interests at heart as opposed to Donald Trump. They believed that domestically she represented more so whatever their domestic issues are, or their domestic interests are, as opposed to Donald Trump. And so they were expected to vote for her. But the Palestinian community and the Arab community and the Palestinian supporters and the pro-Palestinian organizations went all in, went ham on this community, because they were looking to do something that they believe was in their best interest as opposed to supporting somebody else's interest. You went all ham on them. That means that there's no symmetry here. That means that these communities are looking to continue to exploit people of African ancestry, to exploit these communities, to exploit, our softness, right, our tenderness towards oppression, towards colonization, towards racism, towards discrimination, while all throughout these people are really carrying out the exact same things they're blaming other people for. And I think right now are currently still colonizing all of North African countries who have their own societies, their own cultures, their own traditions, their own indigenous peoples, but they've been Arabized as such in culture, in tradition, in language, in religion. I mean, these things came from somewhere. So trying to blame the entire world as if Palestinian people have no hand in nothing, they're all good. And I don't even say Palestinian people, because you have Afro-Palestinians that are still considered Palestinian people that are experiencing racism and discrimination and oppression at the hands of the Palestinian people, the fair skins, the governments, the PA, Hamas and others. Yeah, they're experiencing these things. So let's not. I just want to jump on here and share these few words with you all, just to give you a different perspective on this. But still, I really don't even believe this is true. It seems absolutely fabricated to me. But nonetheless, thank you so much for listening and being along with me. Please continue to follow, like, subscribe, and share with me in the comments your thoughts on this. Until then, you have a very great day.